CSS makes it very easy to select and style HTML elements. So easy, in fact, that we can combine multiple selectors into one for a very fine-grained selection. So CSS combiners allow us to combine multiple selectors into one, allowing us to select HTML elements without the need to add more selectors in the HTML. So the first combiner we'll take a look at is the descendant combiner. This combiner allows us to select any HTML element, and then we can select any direct descendant of that HTML element. So any element that is nested inside of that element, regardless of how nested it is. So as you can see here, I've got a div and I've got a few nested elements inside of it, and this is what we're going to be using for our example. So let's head over to the CSS. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to select that class, and this class is going to be the entry point for our descendant selector. So let's go ahead and select that class, and then we're going to put a space. And then after the space is going to be what we want to target, so the element that we want to target. So let's say we want to target the span element. So let's just put a span selector here, and we'll open and close those curly braces. Now let's just change the color to, let's say, green, and we'll go ahead and save that. And so over here you can see only this one here has changed its color to green. The rest of the other ones haven't been touched. And that's because this one right here is the only one that is currently inside of a span tag. Everything else is inside of a p tag. And we only selected the span tag. Now we can also select those p tags. So if we want to select the p tags and change the color of those, we'd have to do the exact same thing. We'll say select the class, and then we can select the p tags, and we can change those colors to blue, just like that. And you can see that the p tags have changed color to blue, and the rest of these p tags in here, all of these, including this one that is nested inside of a p tag, have all changed their colors to blue. But not only can we select elements, but we can also select classes and IDs as well. So let's add a class here called foo, why not? And we can save that. And if we go over here, we can actually select it in the same way. So we can say eat, and then we can put a space, and then we can also select the foo class, and we can change that color to black. Let's just change it back to black. And you can see this one right here that is the descendant of the div with the class of foo has changed its color back to black. But you also see that the p tag that's nested inside of the other p tag has not changed back to black, it stays blue. So let's switch gears a little bit and look at something that's similar but different in its own regard. I'm talking about the child combiner. So as I said before, the child combiner is similar to the descendant combiner, where it allows you to select elements nested inside of a root element. Where they differ is that the child combiner only allows you to select direct descendants of that root element, whereas the descendant combiner allows you to select elements regardless of its nested level. So let's take a look at an example, and it might make a little bit more sense. So let's head over to the CSS, and the first thing we want to do is we want to select that root element. So we're going to select the sleep, and then we're going to define that it's a child combiner by using the greater than symbol. And then after the greater than symbol, let's say we want to select all of the p tags. So we'll put a p tag selector there, and we'll open and close that. So let's go ahead and change the color of all the p tags to green, and let's save that. So you can see over here that we've got two lines that have turned to green. But what about this one right here? I thought this was nested in a p tag. Let's take a look at the HTML. So as I said before, the child combiner only works with direct children of the root element. So you can see we've got the root element, and then we've got one direct child p tag, and then we've got two direct child p tags. But since this is a div, it's containing that p tag, it's not a direct child of the root element, it's more of a descendant of the root element. And just like with the descendant combiner, we can select more than just HTML elements. We can also select classes and IDs. So let's do our foo again, and let's select that foo class. So we'll say sleep, a direct child of sleep with the class of foo, and we'll change the color of the text to blue. And you can see now that both of them are blue. I thought they were only direct children. What in the world is going on here? Well, this is actually a happy coincidence. The reason that this is actually turned blue is because it's actually inheriting its color from its parent. Inheritance is something for a completely different video. I'm not going into inheritance right now, but by default, the p tag is going to inherit the color of the parent element, and by default that is going to be black. But since we changed the div tag that is the parent element to the p tag to blue, the p tag has gone ahead and inherited that trait from that parent element div. A little off topic, but it's pretty neat to know. But now that we know all about affecting child elements, let's jump ship and talk about sibling elements. So there are two types of sibling combiners. There's a general sibling combiner and there's an adjacent sibling combiner. Let's start with the general sibling combiner first. So the way that the general sibling combiner works is that you select an entry point, and then everything that's after that entry point that matches your combiner selector will then be styled accordingly. So let's take a look at an example and it might make a little bit more sense. So as you can see here, I've got 4 p tags, and each one of them are labeled first, second, third, and fourth with classes. So let's start with the first. So we'll select first, and then we're going to use the tilde key. This is to define the general sibling combiner. And then the second one is going to be what we're matching. So let's just match the p tag. So let's just change the color to green, and we'll save it. Now you can see all 3 of these p tags here are color green, but the first one is not. The one that is considered the entry point is not going to be included in that sibling selector. So we've got all 3 of these p tags that come after this first one that are now selected. Now let's do that third. So we're going to change this first to third, just like that. And you can see that only this last one here, this fourth one, is being changed the color to green. And that's simply because the entry point is this third one right here. And then everything that comes after that, that matches that p tag selector, is going to be styled. So this is the only one that matches that p tag that comes after that third, what that is considered the entry point. And we can also do the same thing that we did with child combiners, that we select classes as well. So I could select first, and I can actually select that third one using the class third, and then I can change that color to red. And so this stays green, this fourth one stays green because this one is still matching this one here. But this first one is considered the entry point, and then this third one is matching with the third class, and it's going to be changed to red. Now let's jump over one more time to the adjacent sibling combiner. So the adjacent sibling combiner works nearly identical to the general sibling combiner. The only real difference is that the adjacent sibling combiner only works for adjacent elements, so the one that comes directly after the entry point. So let's jump over to the CSS, and we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to say first, and then we're going to use the plus symbol. This is going to denote this is an adjacent sibling combiner. And then we're going to use the P selector, and we'll just change the color to blue. You'll notice the only one that changes is this second one right here. And the reason for that is because that the first one is the entry point, and the second one is the only one that is adjacent to this entry point here. So we're going to have our entry point, and then the adjacent one that comes right after it that will be matched as the sibling combiner. And again, just like all the other ones, we can denote using the class syntax as well. So we can say second, and we can use the adjacent sibling combiner, and we can select third, and we can change the color to green, just like that. And you can see that the third one matched that criteria, so it got changed to the color green. Now, there's one more thing I want to take a look at, and it's probably one of the more popular ones. We're going to take a look at the selector list. So the way that the selector list works is it's not really much of a combiner, rather it's more of a multi-selector. So the way that it works, let's go over to the CSS, and the way that it works is that it's going to select multiple selectors, and it'll add the same styles to them. Let's say that we want to change the color of all of the P tags, the span tags, and the H2 tags to a color, the same exact color. We don't want to write that out multiple different times, so the way that we could do that instead is with a selector list. So we want to select the P tags, then we comma separate it, and we also want to select the H2 tags and comma separate it, and we also want to select the span tags, and then we can open and close our curly braces, and we can change all the colors for all of those tags to blue, just like that. And every single one of them that I added to this selector list got changed to the color blue. I did not include the H1, nor did I include the div, so those stayed black, but everything else was selected and changed to color blue. And that's it for CSS combiners. If you did like the video, make sure you slap a like on it. Check out the full playlist, link is down in the description below. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.